Initial fuel moistures. This short video will provide information regarding the initial fuel moisture values in WFDSS fire behavior analysis. It will cover initial dead and live fuel moisture values, conditioning, and editing. Initial fuel moisture values include both the dead fuels, the 1, 10, and 100-hour size classes, and the live fuels, the herbaceous and woody. The live and dead fuel moistures play a significant role in the calculated fire behavior and therefore affect the output of the models greatly. Care should be taken to ensure the most representative input values are used. On this screen, we are viewing the initial fuel moistures for a short-term fire behavior simulation from the short-term information screen. The initial fuel moisture values can be found and edited in the same location for basic and near-term fire behavior simulations. We will discuss the location of the fuel moistures in FS Pro later in the video. The initial dead fuel moisture values continue to be based on calculations from the NFDRS, or National Fire Danger Rating System, for the user-selected RAWS station, in this example, the Ski Hill RAWS. In basic, short-term, and near-term, these values can also be conditioned to the recent weather conditions by electing to have a conditioning period. By default, the conditioning days are set to 7 and can be edited if desired. When a conditioning period is selected, the initial dead fuel moisture values will be conditioned to the past day's weather for the number of days selected. Users can edit the initial dead fuel moisture values by simply typing over the current values and entering new values. In this example, the 1-hour fuel moisture is 7, the 10-hour is 8, and the 100-hour is 12. To edit them, just type them over and enter new values. And select Save when you are finished. Analysts should always strive to set the dead fuel moisture values to reflect current conditions. Conditioning the fuels can also help ensure the values used in the model will reflect ground conditions. Now let's discuss the live fuel moisture values, the herbaceous and the woody. As of June 2012, the source of the data for the dead and live fuel moisture values are not the same within the WFDSS application. Initial live fuel moisture values are no longer based on the NFDRS calculation. Beginning in June 2012, the live fuel moisture values are calculated based on GSI, or Growing Season Index, for the user-selected station. The GSI takes into account temperature, hours of daylight, and moisture. Analysts should keep in mind that the GSI calculated values are still initial default values and should always be evaluated and edited as needed to reflect the current fuel's conditions. The values can be edited by typing over and entering new values, and selecting Save when you are finished. In basic, short-term, and near-term, an option exists to set the fuel moisture values by fuel model. For example, a user can enter a specific fuel model in the fuel model box, for example 165, and selecting Add will add a row where the initial fuel moistures can be set for that specific fuel model, if desired. Keep in mind this option does not exist for use in FS Pro. Selecting the Add Fuel Models from Landscape button will add a row for all the fuel models present in the defined landscape. If the button is grayed out, a landscape file must be created first before the option can be utilized. After selecting Add Fuel Models from Landscape File button, all of the fuel models that exist on the landscape are added individually, and the initial fuel moisture values can be set individually if desired. Rows can be deleted by selecting the radio button next to a fuel model and selecting Delete. Now let's look at fuel moisture values in FS Pro. Both the live and dead fuel moistures are displayed in FS Pro on the ERC classes page, once the ERC classes are generated. The values for each type of fuel are broken out into percentile groups for the 1-hour, 10-hour, 100-hour, herbaceous, and woody values. Similar to the other WFDSS fire behavior models, The dead fuel moistures are calculated from NFDRS, and beginning in June 2012, the live fuel moistures are derived from the growing season index, both for the selected fuel for the selected raw station. As with the other models, in FS Pro, these values should be evaluated and adjusted as needed to reflect representative conditions for the different percentile ERC classes. To edit the values, just type over the current value, enter a new value, and select Save. Unlike the other fire behavior models, in FS Pro, the dead fuel moisture values are not conditioned to the previous day's weather conditions, as the fuel moisture values in this screen reflect a change in values at different ERC percentiles, not just the current conditions. Additionally, the values cannot be set by specific fuel model, such as with the other fire behavior analysis models. The values entered here will represent the fuel classes across the entire landscape for all the fuel models. To review, in this video, we discussed the initial dead and live fuel moisture values, conditioning, and editing for fire behavior analysis.